So life settled down, kids are off to school, you've got that promotion you want, work has settled, money is good, so you're nice and relaxed. You're in your 40s and you think to yourself, well, now's the time that I want to work on my physique. So you go online, you read all the material, you watch all the videos, and you keep seeing 45 sets, 52 sets, length and partials. You know it all. You're right on Reddit, just arguing with everyone about all your knowledge you've gained over the last 2 weeks. And then when it comes to working out, stagnation, injury. Things aren't responding like they used to when you were younger. What on earth is going on? You're getting nothing. And on top of that, you're spending all your time at the gym because you're there 6 days a week because you have to do all the volume to make gains. And on top of that, your wife gets you out of bed because apparently you keep mumbling in your sleep, stretch mediated hypertrophy. Things are looking bad. So today I want to talk a bit about gaining in your 40s. Things that I do, things that I've changed over the course of time. That's what this video is about. So before all that, before we get into that, go ahead and hit like, drop a comment for the algorithm, right? Push the channel up. You guys have been amazing with that. And let's get started. So I've made about 3 of these videos over the last 3 years when I've been on YouTube. And inevitably, the comments have always been, it's a great video, Faz, great advice, but you know what? This is just good general advice. This is advice for everyone, for your 20s, 30s, 40s. And it is. It is. So today I'm going to go over some basics, but I'm going to give you 3 specific techniques that I use as a man in his 40s who is freaking yoked. Right, let's crack on. Right, I'm just going to butt in for a second to announce that this video is sponsored by BoostCam, but also my very first premium program is now available on BoostCam. It's a 5-day-a-week routine aimed at the late stage, intermediate, early advanced. It's a upper lower push-pull legs, and it's up there right now. It's called the Jacked Intellectual. It's a 19-week program with 3 phases, different loading types and rep ranges. It's an absolute monster. So go check it out. Use my code Fazlifts to sign up and get on the program. All right, get back to the video. So first of all, there's a double-edged sword that I want you to be aware of. Okay, and that is the fact that your beginner gains are not lost. Okay, so a lot of guys that come into lifting when they're 40s, which by the way isn't that old, they automatically start on the back foot. They think, right, Faz, are my beginner gains gone? Can I build a good physique? It's not the same as when I was 20. Can I do it? And in my experience, this is my honest experience, what I've seen from my clients over the last few years. Guys in their 40s, they will not be held back by their physical attributes. In fact, in some ways, they have advantages because normally they are financially more secure, their lives are more stable, their mood is more stable, they're calm and everything, right? What will hold them back is their lifestyle and their habits. Guys in their 40s have a certain lifestyle. They have a certain way that their week has been set up, a certain stable way. You know, certain habits they like to have in the morning, in the evening, Friday night with the boys, Wednesday night going for drinks with their father or their brother, Saturday night, take away with the family, all this. And that's every single one of those is fine. But there just seems to be a whole rich tapestry of things in the week to keep them busy because they don't have training. They're coming into this new. They have a whole lifestyle setup, which is normally aimed at comfort and fun. Now, I like comfort and fun, but I also like being 200 pounds of hulking mass. So you need to strike a balance. So what I think you guys have got to bear in mind is your beginner gains are not lost, but what will work against you as an older guy is this: your mind, your habits. Are you willing to change to see a change? Be honest with yourself. And that's where working with a coach comes in handy because your coach can lay out exactly what the parameters are. We can still have some fun, but there has to be some sacrifice. Like with anything in life, there's a balance. So that's the first general point. Your beginner gains are not lost. It is on you. But the downside is it's on you. Younger guys tend to be a little bit more malleable in that respect because they don't really have the routine set up yet. You know, they're young. They've just maybe moved out from home. They're at college, university. They're kind of just getting used to things. They haven't got a set routine yet. Younger guys tend to be easier to mold. But we're talking about older guys today. And for you older guys, it's a mental challenge. Now, the second thing I will say, just in terms of a broad like preamble, joint recovery is far more removed from muscular recovery at this age. Now, what I mean by that is when you're younger, you train, you recover, boom. Pretty simple. Now, as you get older, the difference in recovery between your muscles and your joints tends to widen. That gap tends to widen. You might train on Monday. Your muscles might be ready to go by Wednesday, but your joints might need an additional 4 or 5 days, you know? So you've got to be very cognizant of joint recovery. It's super important. You've got to pay a lot of attention to aches, pains, and your ability to recover from session to session. It's okay to pull back if you can't. Right. That was just a bit of a preamble. Okay. The mental side, the physical side, what I think are the most important mental and physical points. Now we're on to the actual main bulk of the video, which is 3 specific techniques that I use, which you guys can use if you're on the older side. First one that I've been using is pre-exhaust. I've been really liking this. Really liking. Those of you who watch my recent videos on training, you'll see that I've talked about this recently. Okay, but pre-exhaust. Essentially, what I do is for every body part, I will train an isolation exercise first. So for chest, it'll be a cable fly. Works great. For back, it'll be some kind of pullover, usually a machine pullover for me. For quads, it'll be a leg extension. For hamstrings, it'll be a curl. For shoulders, it'll be laterals. Even for arms, I'm looking at cable movements before heavy barbell dumbbell movements. Okay, so that means I need to use less weight when it comes to the compounds. Now that's good for me. I don't want to be pressing maximal weights every single session because I'm at the point now where those weights get pretty heavy. Now, even if you're not at my strength level, this might also benefit you. Okay. Even if you're only benching a couple of plates aside, this might still be of benefit. Because if you do a cable fly first, for let's say 3 hard sets, the weight you use on the press will probably be reduced by 20 kilos. Now, if you had told me to do that 20 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. I don't need to be handling 20 kilos less than what I'm capable of handling. At this age now, I don't care. Weight on the bar means nothing to me at all, like literally nothing. If I could maintain my size, benching a plate aside, fantastic. Sign me up. Okay. So the first technique, which I use, is pre-exhaust because it reduces the amount necessary on the heavy compounds, which benefits me because joint recovery is much more of a concern than muscle recovery at this age. And I suspect that difference will only get worse as I get older. So I don't want to have to lift easy. I still want to train hard. But if I can go all out with 20 kilos less on the bar, that's a win. And bear in mind, my reps are still high. I'm still doing a nice control descent. I'm still lifting with control. I'm just trying to minimize the weight on the bar while still working hard. And pre-exhaust is the first thing I do. Now, the second concept which I put into play is intuitive training. This is something which I started to talk about probably 3 years ago now. So essentially, the summary is I am far more willing to go off plan these days. If something doesn't quite feel right, if something hurts, there's a bit of an ache and pain, I'm not doing it. It's as simple as that. No questions asked, which for me, being quite a performance oriented person, like a goal oriented person, that was quite an adjustment. For some of you guys, that might seem pretty standard. But I think in today's age of routines and sets and reps, people can get locked into one way of doing things pretty easily. So I'm just speaking on psychology. It's okay to go off plan. So for example, if I start on an exercise, even if I'm warmed up correctly, even if I've done the pre-exhaust and it doesn't feel right, I just change something else. Not a problem. If my chest insertions, my elbow isn't feeling good, I just do something else. Not a problem whatsoever. I just switch it up. Intuitive training, super useful because I'd be willing to bet. A lot of those guys, you know, who have the bum shoulder, knees, elbows, all that kind of stuff. A lot of those guys don't have bad body parts because of one major accident. They usually have it because of a series of interconnecting, progressively worse pain. So it starts off with the knees hurting a little bit. You ignore it. You ignore it again, ignore it for a few months. Before you know it, you're basically living with knee pain and it's been 6 months and it's not getting better. In fact, it's getting worse. Another 6 months, it becomes chronic. Before you know it, you're in your 50s, your knee's shot, and you can't even really remember when it happened. It just happened along the way. Now, that kind of pain is all too common, but it can be avoided. It can be avoided because all you're doing is constantly tearing down those joints, those ligaments, and you don't need to do that. You can still have a great session. Just jump on a different machine and do something else. If you're doing leg extensions and leg presses, leg extensions are fine, but the leg presses kill. Don't do the leg presses. I know it sounds super simple, but in today's very results and performance oriented world, it might not be simple for everyone. So definitely train intuitively in the sense that on the day, feel free to mix it up. Okay. If something's not working for you, just change it. You're either in pain or you're just not getting a good feeling from it, mix it up. Who cares? Okay. And the final thing is frequency. This is related to the point about joints again. So I built most of my muscle with training a body part 3+ times a week. I had my biggest growth spurts with training body parts 3+ times a week. I'm talking full body multiple times a week. That's my history. All throughout my best years, it was always training a body part 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week. And I'm talking big body parts too, chest, back, legs, everything. Now, as I've gotten older, I've progressively moved away from the frequency. Now, at this age, I'm not going to say I'm making a bunch of gains because let's face it, realistically, how much bigger am I getting? Not so much. Even if I was 30 again, I'm not getting much bigger than I am now. So it's not like training less frequently got me the gain. So this is not a recommendation for you guys who are building up and you're young. This is a recommendation more for you guys who are older and are already quite jacked. But let's say you're maybe having some problems with recovery. Okay. I would say experiment with lower frequencies. This is not how I built my muscle, but it means I can train hard now and that works. So in terms of how to do that, here's where you want to avoid getting sniped by the evidence-based crowd. Okay. You've heard this 10 to 20 sets. Bollocks. Nonsense, right? Don't feel like if you train a body part once a week, you have to do all 20 sets that one day. It's not the way it works. If you're training a body part in one session, stick to somewhere between 5 to 10 sets per body part for that session. That's it. Don't do more than that. It's enough. Don't feel like you have to go to 20. Okay. I trained legs today, this morning. Quads 9 sets, hamstrings 9 sets. So don't let the weekly total make you go crazy. The weekly total is only really valid if you're training much more frequently. But per session, about that 5 to 10 figure. That works pretty well. And that works even if you're training a body part once per week. Don't get distracted by the volume totals. Okay. So the last major point that I've been doing recently is lower frequency training. It's been fine. And I just want to really stress again for you younger guys, that is not a recommendation or validation for training once a week while you're building up. While you're building up, you should be training more often because you can recover. But at an older age, for the older guys, it makes sense, especially for the older guys who are relatively strong and are training reasonably well. All right, folks. So I'm going to call it there, and I will speak to you in the next one. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully it's given you some specific things, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.